Hello and welcome to LedgerCast. My name is Brian Krogsgaard. I am here with Josh Olszewicz for the last show of the year, aka the first of 2021. We're doing predictions. Josh, what was that pithy show title that you shared and I forgot?
Brian's bags? No. New Year's trade. What is your trading resolutions for 2021?
Trading resolutions for 2021. We'll talk about our trading resolutions and we'll do some predictions for what's going to happen the rest of the year. Wait, no, that's only like 4 hours. We'll do predictions for 2021 and talk about what we think is coming. It might not be what you expect. We're not just going to go full moon mode, although we're going to do some full moon mode. We're going to try to bring some reason to the conversation. We are up 3x in Bitcoin just over like the last 2.5 months, aren't we, Josh?
Yeah, and that's I don't know. I feel like nobody should be surprised for a few reasons, mainly because of seasonality. Because if you listen to this show, if you're a regular listener, first of all, thank you, and if you tell other people about our show, thank you. I feel like I don't shill the show enough, Brian, and I'm just trying to.
And you know what we also shill while we're on the show is matcha, because it's the best place to trade crypto. I've made many trades over the past couple of days on matcha, and you can go to ledgerstatus.com/matcha to check it out and trade today. You can do limit orders against WETH, that's what I call it, WETH, or USDC. It's a fantastic place to trade. It's great liquidity. They pull it from all the places. You can go buy some altcoin bags once you realize those gains on January 1st for Bitcoin, rotation to alts for some altcoin action in 2021. Is that what we're going to be predicting? I might be. You can do all that on Matcha at ledgerstatus.com/Matcha. They're a great partner. We appreciate them, and we'd appreciate you trying Matcha because it is a fantastic way to trade and a fantastic place to trade. Try it today. All right. Yeah, so you were shilling our show.
We're shilling our show to the people listening to our show, so it's pointless, really. But
what we need is for y'all to shill our show to people who don't listen to our show.
I'm so bad. I feel like I'm great at creating content, and I make good content. I'm just so bad at like promoting myself
to shill your content,
to like distribute it and stuff. But anyway, what were we saying?
I don't know, but chicken. I can't pronounce this name on the air. He said he filled his juicy rook bag with matcha limit orders, and that's my bag and my sponsor, so I'm happy about that. So thank you, Mr. Chicken. I hope he used ledgerstatus.com/matcha so that they can track when someone came from our show. But yeah, man, I mean, Bitcoin's up 3x.
Oh, seasonality. Yeah, seasonality. Here's the thing, Brian. You poo-pooed seasonality.
I did poo-poo, and I take it back. I'm very sorry.
Here is, I had somebody who told me in probably mid-2018 that the seasonality I had shared leading through that bubble really helped them pull the trigger on actually like selling their hodl position at that time.
That's awesome.
So not that anything that I say is investment advice, but just, it's back testing, right? Look for yourself. Do we want to start with predictions or current events, or is there anything going on you want to talk about?
Let's talk about a little bit of the year in review, because it's been, pretty insane. So we started the year around 7K.
Well, didn't we say in March nothing would surprise us as far as highs are concerned? I feel like if we listen back to that episode, you definitely were calling this range, as I was agreeing with you, as far as a possible all-time high. I don't know if we said all-time high by the end of the year. I think we said like 18K or something.
Yeah, well, recently we had an episode titled 18K, but that was based off our last January predictions. So when we were at 7K, there was a big question. We were flagging for a month, and it could have been kind of a bear flag. So there was unknown whether we were gonna, try to go start a bull market or, go test the lows again. What we said there was we thought that this was our January prediction. We thought 5K would hold on the bottom side, which was the 200-week moving average. And we thought that if we broke 12K, then we would test all-time highs. So kind of that 18 to 20K range. And it turned out we did both. We held 5K during the liquidity crisis of March. And then we went major bull and stayed major bull until now. We've had, what, Josh, like maybe 2 or 3 real down weeks since the bottom in March. Not much by the way of down weeks. And it's been a lot of up weeks. We went to 18K and then through it. And throughout that, I took a little crap about this on my call saying that we're due for a correction today, saying that you and I have been calling for a major correction since 14K. And that's both true and untrue. We've been calling that we could get a major correction since 14K. That is absolutely true. But we've also noted every time we've talked about it that has not affected our spot positioning. It's affected our desire to buy the dips when they come or take margin positions, either when we're high to not take them or when we're, or to be able to buy the dip if we get the dip. So there's nothing wrong with saying we are due for a correction and then not getting it if you're putting that in the context of we're still very bullish on Bitcoin. And I think we both will say that today. Like, we may hedge out for a moment, or we may take a little off the table here and there if we have life things to take care of, but neither of us is trying to call like the market top or say it's over. But
I can give you the market top, and it's not now.
Yeah. But and actually even one of our market corrections was one of those down weeks, right? We went to 19K and 2 days later we were at 16K and it was a 15% correction or something. So this is just 20% correction. It's just hardly visible on the weekly chart anymore. So, keeping these things in context, if you're like brand new entering crypto, trying to get an allocation, I would rather buy when something's down 10%, 15%, 20%, or dollar cost average in, or market in and just have a long enough lens to bear through that correction if you do it at exactly the wrong time. Josh, you had done an analysis before of like when's the right time to buy during a bull market, right? You want to give an update on that?
Yeah, I also saw very recently an article discussing should I buy at all-time highs, and they compared buying at all-time highs versus buying at any other day, the S&P.
Yeah.
And buying the S&P at all-time highs outperformed buying any day by like a wide margin. Right. So
because essentially when you're at all-time high, you're in price discovery, you're going to continue going at all-time high. And when you get that dump, it's likely to be higher than when you just market bought it anyway. So unless you time the exact local top, then you're probably going to be better off just buying all the time in a bull market. Now,
right, which makes sense, right? If price keeps going up, why would you not want to buy, right? But people would, I don't know. I think people either FOMO super late, or they buy the wrong dip, or they don't think about it as just getting in. I have people like family acquaintances and people like asking me about crypto stuff, and my answer is always the same for all of them. It's like, just DCA. You don't need to have a conversation with me about it. I'd love to talk to you about it, but that's not like, I'm not the arbiter of your trade investment decisions, right? It's just all about just getting into the market, period. Like, don't wait to talk to me about it. Just do it.
Yeah. Paul Tudor Jones has famously said, like, just look at where the price is relative to the 200-day moving average and only buy things above the 200-day moving average. And if they're below the 200-day moving average, then don't buy them. But if they're above it, buy them. And he doesn't say like how much above it or what's the percentage it could go down and still be above it. It's just, that could impact your strategy a little bit. But if it's above the 200-day, it's by definition a bull market, and go for it. And on the whole, that'll treat you pretty well. You would have stayed out of almost the entire bull market, bear market. You would have gotten back in at 4,700, which sounds pretty great right now, doesn't it?
Yeah, and we're not talking 10x, 20x, even 5x, just spot, right? Like,
yeah,
that's another thing people don't. That's another thing people immediately assume we're talking about leverage, or whoever's talking about leverage. No, they're not talking about. We're not talking about taking a loan from the bank to buy Bitcoin.
Yeah,
none of that. Just
so as Josh and I are talking about what our targets are, what we think could be drawdowns, what kind of corrections we might get, we both believe we're in a bull market and that we want exposure, and we both have exposure, much more as a percentage of our net worth than the average person. A lot of exposure to crypto. That's not our point of argument. We're trying to break it down for the traders in the room who are seeking to even do better than buy and hold Bitcoin, right? At least with a portion of their holdings. That's our aim here. And we do that through a variety of methods. Anyway, so we hit 5K on the downside. Like we said, we thought it would hold. The way we got there and what we've done since are both more extreme than we would have expected. And maybe that's the one norm that we're really learning about Bitcoin and efficient markets in general today, is that they are so extreme and so fast. Like we saw that with the down moves from caused by COVID news and shutdowns and everything. What happened in the legacy markets? It went down so fast, and then it went up, and it just went up and up and up and up. Everything was so extreme. And I wonder if that will be something that we continue to do.
I think one big thing that we have this cycle that we didn't have in 2017 or 2013 is just on-ramping of institutional money. We say institutional money is coming, or it's going to be the next part of the cycle or something. But now we actually have institutional money that's able to buy it, has researched it for years, and has a place to do it that they trust. So it's like the perfect storm of, if you want to buy it, it's there to buy, right? You can TWAP in, VWAP, whatever you want to do. Their version of DCAing quickly. It can be done at any size, essentially, right? Like, you're not going to move the market at even Michael Saylor sizes. Or
you're gonna put consistent buy pressure, prevent the market from dumping, but you're probably not going to make the market go up 10% all by yourself.
Right. So I think the money that wants to be here, because specifically the dollar is dumping, which we'll get to, I'm sure, they can get in at virtually any size very quickly. I don't think that's a concern anymore, especially with prices where they're at. Prices, that's one thing that I learned, like listening to all these people talk about, like you talk about like market caps and stuff. The bigger the market cap, the bigger the price for Bitcoin. It's actually easier for institutions, easier for hedge funds, easier for mutual funds, any sort of big player to just start getting into Bitcoin, because you can't buy 2 billion worth of Bitcoin at a Bitcoin price of $1,000 and not move the entire market, right?
Yeah, you have to have it be bigger so that you can get your allocation to a degree that even matters.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're seeing. And we're seeing the more aggressive entries occurring as we break different levels, right? So the people that were looking for deals were buying the 200-week moving average and accumulating in the bear market. People that were waiting for it to prove itself were buying breaks of weekly highs and, break round numbers like 10K and prior yearly highs at 12K. And then what we saw after that was a lack of desire to sell through the prior all-time high, and then a very strong willingness to buy with the breach of the all-time high, because that was the, hey, we're going to price exploration type of stuff. So different people with those different allocation desires are willing to buy at all those prices, have been willing to buy at all those prices, and now we're at a 50% gain beyond the all-time high. Now, for those of us who've been in accumulation mode, crypto trading mode, all through the bear market between $3,000 and $6,000, and then $6,000 to $10,000, this feels exuberant to us, right? Like we're like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. But to all those newer people, this is the first or second inning.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. Like, if they got in just now, what are their expectations as far as where they think this is going? Like, is it just a hedge for them, or do they think this is a 5-10x potential versus the dollar? I don't know where their mindset is. It's got to be higher than we are now, right? Like,
yeah, it's a lot higher than we are now. And what we have to do is not look at just price, but look at what's the total market cap relative to other macro assets. We've talked about this a lot. For gold parity, Bitcoin has to be like $500,000 ish, right? I do not. What's that?
That's nuts. Right?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, well, it's not even anymore. It's less than that now, but let's go ahead and call it a 20x roughly from breaking the all-time high to getting close to gold parity if gold stays the same price. I don't think that's what we're going in for, like on market cycle number 1 of Bitcoin being a macro asset. But I do think that we're in the ball game, and maybe it's like the silver market cap, right? So to become serious in that game, and now people are taking Bitcoin seriously, therefore it's way too small to be effective despite being serious. So therefore it has to be bigger. So my goals for this market are 6-figure Bitcoin, but it might take more than 1 year for that to occur. We could totally be, Josh, you and I just were on our Friends Direct podcast, their year-end show. We talked about predictions. Our predictions were vastly different, but it was because they were 2021, not market cycle predictions. I think our predictions are probably pretty similar in terms of what we might see in this market cycle. But 6-figure Bitcoin in this market cycle is within the realm of reason in my mind. You agree?
I agree, very much so. And for anybody who doesn't think that's possible or that's crazy, just look at the previous all-time highs, the logarithmic. I have a bunch of stuff pulled up that we can talk about specifically, but
yeah, the last market was about 7,000%. We've had multiple bull markets, like 5,000 to 7,000% gains. And that would, a 7,000% gain would take us to $250,000 per Bitcoin, or 10x from here. That's off of the prior bear market lows. That is crazy. It's not to say that the last 2 is exactly what we'll have this time, but it's within the realm of possibility. That's also half of gold's current market cap. I think that's nuts. I think it's totally nuts. I don't think it necessarily has to be this market, but is it within the realm of possibility? Yes.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just even looking at, so just pull up the 2-year MA multiplier, and just look at where it predicted tops and bottoms since 2013. And we're currently sort of above the median line of that even, and we're headed for 46K. And that's crazy even from here, right? Like, I don't know. It's all, I'm not euphoric. I'm just in disbelief, just permanent disbelief.
And for context on that, when we hit the 2-year multiplier in 2017 for the first time, it was June, and we were at like 2,500, right? Like we almost hit it there. Is that roughly what that number is?
Yeah, so it bounced down a few times, definitely.
Yeah, but it rode that as a top kind of throughout the year before it blew through it, like over exuberant. But the first time it hit it was only around 2,500, and it went 10x from there. So it's not to say even the 2-year multiplier moves just like the 1 year and everything else. It's a moving average. It goes up while the number goes up. So that could meet a resistance. That could be resistance to say we're well beyond the mean at 50K, but then we still go higher in terms of the broader cycle top.
Yeah, exactly. Like this isn't telling you where price will top. It's telling you where price would top based on the current date. Like you can see the acceleration in the MAs here and the multiplier. And the same thing with 2017. You can see how it bounced in between the resistance and support in the median line there. Even it did so in 2013 as well before making another run. So all that is par for the course next year, which is a little soon for like the end of this cycle. But I think 1 to 2 years is a decent time horizon for 6 figures, definitely.
Yeah. I think one of my calls that I want to make, one of my predictions, is that I think this market cycle will last well more than 1 year. I think before we have a bear market, a full on like go tap the 200-week moving average, it'll take a couple of years at minimum. At the same time, I believe personally we're well overextended in the daily ranges, like distance from moving averages. We're 54% away from the 200-day moving average, which is at like 13.4K, something like that. we can cut in half and still be above the 200-day moving average. We can go down to 23K and hit the 20-day moving average. I have friends saying we're never going to go below 20K again.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much downside that could happen and still be bullish. It's actually insane.
It's a 30% dip. It's a little over a 30% dip to go to 20K. Now, I actually do agree with them. 20K is a resounding buy now, right? Like, it's crazy. It's crazy to think of. But if I was talking to friends and family and they were asking me how can I get a more allocation to Bitcoin, I would say if we retest 20K, buy it. Like, buy it.
Yeah, that's the other thing I tell people. Like, don't just start buying and don't stop. And if price goes lower, just buy more. That's all I tell people.
And if we're not at the market cycle top, then that was a good decision. If we are at the market cycle top, then it might be a bad decision for a couple of years before it becomes a good decision, assuming all these macro components still line up and Bitcoin is a macro asset to be excited about. All of this fits into this Bitcoin log curve that you just had up, if you want to go back to that.
Yeah, I was going to actually pull it up on TradingView because
Is it more fun there?
It's quite bright on the white background. I'm not going to be able to find it, right? Whatever.
Ninja makes a good point too. What if Bitcoin goes up 7,000%, but a hamburger costs $100? It's a lot of this is our bearishness on the dollar, which the dollar is due for a move up, a mean reversion up, but fundamentally not, because like we all agree that the government is willing to put more money supply into the world, and therefore the dollar's buying power is probably going to go down and inflation up, yada yada. Anyway, here's your Bitcoin log growth curve.
Well, before I talk about this, I'd encourage everybody to look at all this stuff and treat it as an oscillator, much as this website, lookintobitcoin.com, has broken it down for you. Look at MVRV, look at all the on-chain stuff. It's all right here for you on the website. It's simple. They don't pay me anything to say this, whatever. But to me, we're in like the fourth, fifth, or sixth inning of what's going to happen for crypto this cycle.
Yeah.
And if you look at it as an oscillator, you can see we're nearing the median of the log growth curve. I showed the 2-year MA. We are above the median of the 2-year MA. So that's like fifth or sixth inning there. For those not familiar with baseball, 9 innings is the full game. So just to clarify. So yeah, we're in the mid to late stage-ish. And if you want like actual top targets that have been predicted historically every time, it's the log growth curves. These haven't been wrong ever.
Which is nuts.
And if
I don't even understand what makes up the top and bottom of the log growth curves.
Math.
It's a standard deviation number?
Yes. It's a fib standard deviation from what I can tell. But yeah, it's predicting
currently 100K.
93 plus.
Well, that would be if the top happens in January, it would go to 100 or 99.
Right. And this has always been here. This isn't just like us looking at it now. I mean, this is
forward looking. It's a forward model, which is what you love about the cloud. And the log growth curve is giving the model for at least 30 or 60 days out or something.
Right.
And to see how this one, I mean, you and I have talked about this. Stock to flow is playing out well, which kind of drives me nuts because it's like if Bitcoin follows this route, like all these Bitcoin maximalists that got thousands of Bitcoin and never sold them despite the highs, like they're all going to be right and hilariously rich, at least in Bitcoin terms. We don't know if that'll just be a preservation of buying power if we go hyperinflation or something. I always thought if we hit $500,000 Bitcoin, that means there's bad things happening in the world.
Which may still be true.
It may still be true. Or it means that we truly do upend 5,000 years of gold dominance and Bitcoin becomes the primary interesting store of value, which is something I was not willing to give as much credit as I am today. A year ago, I'll say that outright.
Well, I think stock to flow is forever silly, but it is interesting that it's following it closely, you know?
I'm not going to complain if it's making me
Yeah,
making me
I mean,
money.
right? Like if it's making you rich, whatever. But this is also showing six-figure top, basically. This like it did every single time, and it outperformed and came back.
Yeah.
So this is sort of showing like 95K as support in like 2023. But
Yeah, and the stock to flow has more to do with like new supply of Bitcoin, the halvenings, all that, and that's why the run up, like the catch up tenure, is whatever the 1-2 year period after, or around a halvening, and then the flattening is as that inflation cycle levels out over the next couple of years, and then you do it again. Correct?
yeah, yeah.
So that's why that's more of like a plateau model, like
When
every 4 years.
And this is based off gold, as far as I know, like the stock to flow for gold.
Okay.
I assume, I think. And then one other thing I wanted to show is just Bitcoin
Oh
Google
wow,
Trends.
it's finally doing it.
It is finally doing it, and you can see we're not
Oh, that's
even.
so scary though.
If 50 is the line up here, we're at 40 right now.
That's got to be top, like local top things, right?
I don't know. We're above
It
the
was in
local top in
2019.
2019, so
Scary.
we are well on our way.
This is scary to me.
We are well on our way to some insanity. Now you can see how quickly we jumped. It was basically in a month's time we jumped from nothing to absolute straight up, basically. In 2017.
Yeah,
But
this means that the accumulation phase is more over, and we're entering markup phase at least.
yeah, I think so.
I mean, the chart shows that too, but yeah.
So just look it up, pull all this stuff together, put it on your what is it, your dream board, or what do they call it?
Your Ouija board?
No, like not flowchart, vision board. Put it on your vision board.
Oh yeah.
Put it on today's vision board. Look at it 6 months from now and see how right you were as far as where we are in the cycle. But you can look at all this stuff like an oscillator for sure.
Yeah. Myware brings up, the Turkey and Argentina, Bitcoin there has been at all-time highs for a long time and is continuing on, and that's just the people that understand the lack of permanence of a fiat currency better than Americans do. And Americans are the most spoiled. Like our fiat currency may not be good, but it's better than everybody else's. So something to consider. A good point brought up by them. So let's get more specific for 2021. Let's just go ahead and call it 30K, Josh. It looks like we may tap 30K before this year's done, or maybe it'll be 2017 style, and you go right to the brink, go to like 29.9 before we die. Like I said earlier, a 30% correction would bring us back to the prior all-time high of 20K. We're 55% roughly off the 200-day moving average, where even the 20-day moving average is at almost 24K. We're moving really fast. Like these moving averages are practically vertical. But both of us are bullish that a year from now, Bitcoin will be higher than it is today, right?
I think undoubtedly that's the case.
Yeah. Okay.
If past cycles are able to predict the future, which if you're into TA, that's all you're doing all day long. I think definitely we're going to be higher a year from now.
So let's start.
We're almost pushing all-time highs as we record this right now.
Right. Yeah. Let's start with a prediction of what kind of range should we be talking about for a year. You talked about 6 figures on the cycle top, but that was as if the cycle top was this year. So are you putting 100K in your this year range? Like what's your range for this year? Like what's your level 1 worst case scenario for a bull market top, level 2 best case scenario for a 2021 bull market top?
Worst case scenario for a bull market top. I mean, it's got to be the worst case scenario is we roll over into EOY end of year like we did in 2017, like we did in 2013, like we did in. Did we roll over in 2019?
Yeah, 2019 we went to 14K, and ended the year at 7,500. We started, but yeah, 2019 we started at the bottom, like let's say 4K, and the high was at 14K, and we ended the year at 7K. So we had a 50% drawdown before the end of the year.
Okay. I see what you're saying. So I'm just basing it off seasonality. So if Q1 is bad, that's going to adjust this entire situation. It's actually better if Q1 is bad because then we just last longer. It's more of a marathon, not a sprint to wherever the hell we're about to go in the next couple of weeks. Because of taxes, like you talk about in the US and a lot of people are talking about in the chat right now, it's completely feasible that we just we roll over like the first couple of weeks of January.
I mean, there's almost 100 people in this chat, and I doubt anyone is sitting here and just not even considering the tax implications. That's for paying your taxes if you had any trades this year, and also for potentially waiting until the new year to sell so that you're not realizing the gains and have to pay the taxes right away. You have to wait a year. All of that is pressure on Bitcoin's, January performance, right?
Right. And for me, like I had to sell ETH. I had to sell a lot of ETH in 2018. I sold a lot of ETH in 2018 to pay for 2017's taxes. And there's going to be a lot of people like that in 2021 who are going to be selling probably altcoins over their Bitcoin, but I might be wrong there. I assume it's,
or maybe they've been waiting to sell Bitcoin to be able to put it in altcoins. We don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I assume people value BTC long term over altcoins.
Yeah,
short term, but maybe that's incorrect now because of the DeFi stuff. I don't know. I'd assume if you have both positions, you're selling the altcoins to pay for taxes if you're paying for taxes.
Another date that I could imagine is October 2021. So we broke above 10K. Like people might wait for long-term gains. So like the next like big rotation for long-term gains might be like next fall. It's just a random thought that I had. But
well, this is another reason why I look at UTXOs, Brian. You see, because the UTXOs will tell you what's the Bitcoin days destroyed. Who's selling based on when they last bought their coins.
Man, I have to admit that's something I've started considering is because I've got Bitcoin that hasn't moved in a while in a couple different places, and in one of those places I'm thinking, dang, should I just leave that there so that it's a 15% tax? You know what I mean? Because it's in a place where I can borrow against it, whether it's through leverage trading or wrapped Bitcoin, no matter where. Like I can kind of leave some stuff, and I might actually be able to get long-term capital gains if I just wait, which might matter if we go to a lot, if we go to $100,000,
Right. So this is another indicator oscillator situation where I'm looking at just the orange stuff. Like if the orange stuff goes up above 13%, we are probably topped, and it's now at 11%. So it's quickly increasing over the past few weeks. It says it's up 35%. I don't know what period though. So there's a lot of coins moving. Typically that's bearish because it's holders selling.
I think we're really close to a local top. I hate, I'm not trying to be a genius. I just think we're really close. Like I think maybe we do a spike into 33K. There's a lot of reasons for me to think.
Wouldn't that be sweet though to wait till July for 33K? like tease them with like the 30K breach like on a wick.
And no, remember when the podcast we did 33K by May, which now seems conservative, hilariously, because we're only 10% away. I've got a couple of spots in terms of my yearly predictions, and I'm gonna be that guy, and I've just got a fib that I'm throwing up here. So this is prior all-time high, bear market low, and then fib extensions. And this is like this and pivots are my two. I want to throw these on and see where they're at. We'll have to look at pivots next week, Josh, because we tried to calculate them. It made for bad podcast content. So we're almost to the 1.618 fib extension, which is 30K. The measured move, like the equal distant measured move, would be 36K. The 3.618 is at 60K roughly, which is like a really heavy extension. That's not real life type of stuff. And I'll add 2.618 is at 47K. These are the levels that I'm just going to be watching as we breach them, as we approach them, as we breach them. And I'll essentially, in price discovery, I can really only play predictive levels as potential resistance. That's the only way I know how to play it. And then as they breach them, I'll treat them as potential support on the downside. So if we break 30K, that's my 1.618 of the prior bear market fib extension. I will start to treat it as support once we get high enough above it. So like if we go to 47K and we start dumping, I'll be looking at 30K and say, hey man, that could truly be like where we find massive support. That's the way that I treat this. In terms of my yearly view, in our episode with the Rect friends, my 2021 prediction was more around 60. I think I said 66K. I didn't know that it was that exact fib extension there, but my justification for that is I think this bull market is going to take a little more time, because when the market cap gets so much bigger, it does take a little more to push it. Supply side crisis be damned, you know? So I think we might do something like a 2X on the year, but it's the bulk of the bull market might not be until 2022 for all I know.
What if it's a demand side crisis coupled with a supply side crisis? What
How's
if
that
we're
work?
printing? I don't know. I'm just making stuff up at this point, but I'm just saying, we're printing so much money. I sent you that thing on Telegram earlier.
Yeah, it was
today.
nuts. Let me see if I can find it.
That,
The amount of money going into the market.
yeah. I mean, at some point, you just got to ask yourself, if I look at all these projects and I look at how much supply is circulating versus being sold by the team, if we treat the dollar as a 100% pre-mine that's being sold by the government into circulation, like it's going to devalue the denominator of BTC, which this isn't, I don't know, it's not moon speak, it's just reality, right? Like,
yeah, it's just part of it.
It's just going to go up,
the dollar technically looks like it's just dying and desperate for some kind of bounce. We talked about 88 to 89. I think we said 89 being where we thought, the target was, and it's there. It went there, like it went there in days or a couple of weeks or whatever. But it turned out the levels that we broke down from when we were back at 92, 93, when we were talking about it being due to break down from that consolidation, it went really fast on the weekly, and it reached the levels that we talked about.
All the things we thought that would happen on the decision tree, it's like people always look at predictions. They're like, you said this, it was wrong, it was right. No. Like, we got the stimulus, okay? We got all this other stuff we talked about, right? Like, that's all happening, and the expectation of where we're going is where we're going,
Yeah, and they happened on very quick time frames. If I go to a monthly on the dollar, we're reaching that 89 level is also a monthly level, and then below that is the 200 month, which goes back to dollar highs from the recession at 86. So 89 and 86 are huge levels. The origins of, you got to go back to the origins of Bitcoin to get to the Dixie at 80, which is if it breaks that. Those are the things that we'll be tracking as we get further into this bull market. Is do we go all the way to the 200-month moving average on the Dixie? Do we go below it? If we go below 86, that's Bitcoin nutso.
That's six-figure Bitcoin, I think.
That's six-figure Bitcoin. Yeah. The journey below 86 is the journey into six-figure Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And we're gonna play it week by week. This podcast is every week. So today we're making predictions. I said 66K, and Josh, what do you have a 2021 like top guess?
Top guess in 2021.
I could feel like a fool with that 66K. Like it, it could be 3K, the equivalent of 3K last time. We could go to 250, and we just mega moon constantly, and I'm shook.
Well, I do like your fibs. I will give you that.
Yeah.
One thing I was going to ask you about that. Do you feel like the previous all-time high is support now,
Yes.
which is 19.6, like we were
Yes.
talking?
Yes. I think
Okay.
20K is massive support.
All right.
I think
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think our Q1, like when I say we need a dip, if maybe if we dip, we go way below what we think, like so everybody's like 23, 24. Well, what if we go to 18? That's the type of thing that like resets the temperature for an entire quarter. But I think the buy pressure is pretty significant, so that would probably align with stock market badness, you know. Um, but either way, 18 to 20, I'm a buyer. If I'm a buyer, then surely people that aren't in the market are buyers.
yeah. So yeah, I like yearly pivots, which will print tonight or have they already printed?
No,
Are
they'll
we
print it.
crazy?
They'll print on the daily close, which is in
A
an
few
hour and a
hours.
half.
Okay. So yeah, daily pivots. I like fibs, and if you are a non-believer in fibs as far as where you think price might go, just look at where it already is. Like look at look at the 2019 high to the March low, and we're between the 2618 and the 3618 here.
And the only chop we had was at the 1.618. Like,
Right.
and I don't care what market you use, that's just always going to be true in price action. The things people look at are the things that matter, and people look
Yeah.
at fibs. So suck it
Yeah.
up if you don't like them.
So if we're between the 2618 and 3618 now, if we just zoom out even further and we look, okay, what's 2618, 3618 of that high to low? I like 46 to 63 as next year's top.
Okay, so we both like the kind of 60 something range as a 2021 top potentially. But neither of us think that's the full cycle top.
No, it'll be the cycle top if we go straight there. By if we go to 66 in January, then that's a scary situation.
Yeah, I think that's 2019 we went to 14K and then we consolidated for a long time. I think we're probably going to do something like that again this year. But because we went to 14K when everyone was wondering if we'd break 6K, that's what made it to where I think we broke down from the consolidation instead of breaking up. Like if we had done this 3-month consolidation that we had back then, was that what it was? Yeah, it was 90 days. We had a 90-day consolidation, and we broke straight through 6K, had a smaller consolidation, then went to 14. I think if we had consolidated longer at 7 or 8, we might have had we might not have had the same drawdown and 2019 top the way it worked.
I agree.
But I think we'll have something like this, a quarter-long daily consolidation that is extremely painful for all the leveraged people and people with options and all that stuff. And the market makers are going to win. The premium sellers are going to win. Everybody's going to win except for the high leverage folks. I think we'll do that again this year. I just don't know when. I don't know. It could be quarter one. The seasonality says it could be Q1. We could be framing this. We could be framing the equivalent of the 14K top right now and have a big triangle from like 23 to 30K, something like that. That would be awesome. I would love for that to happen, Josh, because it allows us to speculate elsewhere, for one, like altcoins or whatever else, or just chill for a while. And it also gives the market a little more slowdown, like just it gives us a healthier bull market, because if we parabolic to 50K, like we're going to need a lot more pain. We might go straight to a freaking bear market. It's just, that scares me a lot more.
Right. I don't want to go from 60 to 20,
Yeah. 60 to 20 sounds sucky because it takes a long time.
Yes, it does sound sucky. All right. We've talked about BTC a lot. Do we want to switch gears to ETH in the last few minutes here?
Yeah. Let's talk about Ethereum.
As much as I could care less. I think when you're talking about cycle tops and bottoms, you have to look at where you think the ratio is going to be for ETH BTC specifically. Do you think it's going to hold at 0.25? Do you think it's going to 0.5? Do you think it's going to break 0.1? I think that's the conversation you have to have with yourself if you're trying to think about where ETH is going to go, because it's going to follow Bitcoin a little in either direction, right?
Yes.
just as it has. So I guess where do you think it's going to go next year? Do you think the ratio is going to gain ground on BTC, or do you think it's going to continue to lose ground?
I think Ethereum's a lot more contingent on the regulatory picture than Bitcoin is. Not because of Ethereum itself, but because Ethereum is the basis for a bunch of stuff that could be regulated against, be it stable coins or altcoins and pre-sales and all that crap. And seeing what just happened with Ripple and rumors of there being more stuff down the pipeline, that's the kind of stuff that could push Ethereum, in my mind, down, is if the government decides, like, we don't like where this is going. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to crack down on some of this stuff. That's like keep ETH BTC below 0.03 material. I think if the regulators essentially give the market more of a pass, then I think ETH could go and push a double, like the 0.06 to 0.08, a hype cycle, a full hype cycle on ETH-based stuff, and DeFi going insane, exchanges being less important, yada, yada, could take us to like range highs on ETH. I don't expect ETH to break 0.1 forever, maybe. I think I'm almost comfortable saying ever on that 0.1 ratio. But I don't want to discount the fact that the top end of that ratio could occur again, because I think the narrative for ETH is stronger with DeFi than it ever was with ICOs.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like the demand was so much greater with ICOs for ETH specifically, which is why like the demand for ETH, the blockchain is higher than it's ever been. I'll agree with you there. But I don't think the demand for the token is higher than it's ever been.
Well,
I don't know if that makes sense.
ETH 2.0 is going to...
well, but ETH 2.0. No, go ahead. Sorry.
Over the next couple of years, the available supply should go down, and the distribution should also go down. But it's going to continue to inflate over the next couple of years. But I think that'll start to be built in, and a lot of people are saying the future of ETH is deflationary. If the future of ETH is truly deflationary, it has a lot more upside. That's just common sense. That fits into that potential big move up. We're going to find out a lot in terms of whether I'm correct or not, like Q1 coming up, because Ethereum's chart looks terrible relative to Bitcoin right now. Like it's as strong as it looks versus the dollar. Bitcoin just continues to be bigger, better, faster than ETH. One of the things that I think, though, is I am giving more potential credit for Ethereum making an all-time high than I used to. And we're only, the weekly, the equivalent of maybe Bitcoin at 15 or 16K for Ethereum is breaking 800, basically. And I think the difference between 800 and an all-time high retest at 1400, 1350 is not very much for Ethereum. So I think that if Ethereum, that's within the realm of possibility for Ethereum's Q1, which would change that BTC relative chart a lot. So I'm really bullish ETH, and I actually think ETH will break an all-time high. I think it'll break an all-time high this year, and therefore it puts my targets for Ethereum and price discovery more like 3K maybe for this year, is what my rational brain says. What I told the Rect guys was that therefore I kind of want to double it, because that leads us to euphoria. And if we follow, I drew a pitchfork on ETH. Oh my God. I don't know how I got scammed into doing that. But I think a truly insane Ethereum year could take it to 6K. And there's also another fib that is associated with that. So I think that's really hard really weird for me to say. Yeah, the 4.618 is 6K. So that's my Ethereum.
We'll put it like this. This is my quote for this entire podcast right here in a nutshell. Paul Tudor Jones would not be buying ETH BTC right now. It's below the 200-day moving average.
And you know what? You make an excellent point, and that could go so strongly. Like the macro argument for BTC is not there for ETH, and that could be so strong that it puts ETH in perpetual jail relative to BTC, making it very difficult to ever give it the opportunity for some kind of rotation. That said, I think the more likely is retail will still be a big part of this crypto market. And Josh, I don't know anyone in my life. I just don't know people this rich that come in and say, I'm going to buy a BTC. You know, like I'm going to buy one Bitcoin. I'm a retail market participant. I'm going to come buy one Bitcoin. Who's doing it?
I don't think retail people necessarily are, but people who don't care about the price definitely are. You know?
So are therefore retail people not going to participate in crypto?
No, they're participating through Cash App. They're buying
so you're saying
they're buying sats. They're not buying whole Bitcoin. They're buying sats, you know?
You're saying the sats argument will carry better to retail. Now, they may underperform, but I think that they will buy one Ethereum or they'll buy some other crap on Coinbase or Robinhood or something else. I think that is
Well, it's so much easier to just buy on Cash App, you know?
They all have Robinhood accounts. Who cares?
Do they? Do they all have Coinbase accounts where they can buy all this other junk?
I wish we could look up the Coinbase trends, but the Coinbase app is moving up the trends again. Also, Coinbase IPO is going to bring crazy attention to it, and people may download it because of that. I think the alt cycle will be driven by retail, and aside from what happens with macro people and Bitcoin, and I think that'll give ETH and other stuff the leverage to move up significantly. I just don't think it'll last for very long. I think it's like maybe there's like a month, maybe 2 months max of some kind of retail craziness, and then Bitcoin will take over again. But I do think there is a path for price discovery on Ethereum, and if there's price discovery, I think Ethereum will go to 3K and maybe even 6K on an overshoot.
I'll get the last word in here.
Do it.
This is going to be it for the podcast for the year. Happy New Year, Brian.
Happy New Year.
Thank you for everything you do. If we look at this is the 1 year MA multiplier for ETH. It's predicting basically a new all-time high at around 16, 17K.
Yeah.
And that's going to continue to move up or down depending on what's going on. But so I don't hate a new all-time high for ETH. I don't hate ETH BTC overperforming. It doesn't look good here. You know, I just trade what I see.
No, I agree. The current ratio is you're trying to call it, but it doesn't there's no evidence of it. I totally agree with that. What on the ratio would tell you like, oh man, I really need to start paying attention to Ethereum? Is it the 0.038, like that weekly level, or would you be willing sooner? 0.036?
I think 032. Anything above 032 to 032 to 035, and then I think it looks a lot better.
So that's basically just a new weekly high, flip the 20-week trend. That's a little, that's kind of your get ahead of it, right? Like it's not even new weekly highs, new multi-year highs on the ratio, none of that kind of stuff.
Right.
And then
it's just the higher high at the end of the day, really.
Right. And then 0.05 essentially is going to become your round number target at that point, and then overshoot 0.1. So what is 0.1 of our Bitcoin targets? If you go to 60K, 0.1 would be 6K. So that's my overshoot target. Like that, all that lines up pretty well. 60K, 3K, 0.05, right?
Yeah, it does.
So there we settled it.
That's
Most likely end of year scenario or top for the year, 60K, 3K. Are we going to do a joint recommendation on that?
I like it. I'm locking it in. That's my final answer.
One more thing. On a tick basis, do we go below 20K again? Like we just have to wick into it. Do we go below 20K again this year?
I think we definitely wick into it. I think
I agree.
Undoubtedly.
I agree. I don't think we're going to get bearish enough for Michael Saylor and all those people to like sweat their sub all-time high buys or their leveraged buys from like 18K. But
No, but because all those people are going to get media attention on, oh, you're just at break even or lower. Are you worried here? And they're going to say, no, I'm buying more. And that's going to bring up more media attention to, oh, they're buying more. Shouldn't I be buying here if they're buying here? Like, it's all good. Everything's good for Bitcoin either way.
do you think Ethereum could make new all-time lows relative to Bitcoin?
All-time lows?
But, well, modern lows, like below 0.01. What's that level? 0.016.
I think so. If the regulatory tides turn like dark for US people, which is possible, like you're saying.
Yeah. So
then
you're saying Ethereum right now is in no man's land, not an exciting place to be an Ethereum owner, really, on the BTC pair. And if the regulatory stuff, it could make new all-time lows.
Right. If the regulatory stuff turns sour, if ETH 2.0 is a failure, those are pretty much the two worst things that could happen. And
Right.
honestly, if Prog POW passes and the proof of work stuff gets messed up before 2.0 is ready, that's another like third scenario that could like really destroy the ratio as people flee out of that uncertainty.
ETH bull market though, 0.05 and euphoric 0.1 are kind of the zones to watch.
Yes.
So that essentially means that Ethereum is rarely going to be an interesting asset to own itself, right?
I mean, just look at the chart. If anybody's doubting that, just look at where the chart's been and where it is now.
Yeah.
You can trade the USD pair, like we talk about all the time, on high leverage when you're super certain what's going on.
The difference being here and there, it's going to be the access point to some of this other stuff that we both think will have runs. Like we were talking last hour about the uni and synthetics and some of these DeFi things that I think are going to move into the top 20 that are right now clogged by EOS and Tezos and Bitcoin Cash and crap that's it's not really proving itself out, right? Like the ETH killers. So therefore on top of ETH things are, in my mind, going to replace those as the top 20, and ETH as the access point for those, yada yada. That gives ETH more staying power. But leveraging yourselves on those, trading on Matcha, like that's all Ethereum network stuff, and I think that exists on ETH, and there will be times where those are like really great trades to make, really good stuff to do there.
Yep, I agree. But I think an ETH hodl will not outperform a BTC hodl next year. We'll say it like that.
Yeah. I want to trade ETH, but I want to continue hodling Bitcoin.
Yep, I agree.
All right, man. And I'm with you on that wick. I think we're gonna wick 20K at some point, and it's gonna hurt. It'll probably align with the Dixie getting a big bid and Legacy having a big dip. I feel like all that stuff should occur in 2021.
I agree.
Let's leave it there. Thanks, Josh. Hey, it's been a wonderful year doing this podcast with you. It's been great having Matcha on as a partner and continuing into the new year. Go to ledgerstatus.com /Matcha to try it. And thanks everybody for being listeners this year. We've really appreciated it. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast this year, we hope you'll join us next year. We're gonna track this bull market week by week. We're gonna play it slow. We're gonna try to be rational. Not over exuberant. We're going to probably stay optimistic even in the down times. We're going to try to play it straight and do as good as we can. We want to make money. We want to make life-changing money. And we hope that you'll be along for the ride with us. Share this podcast with your friends. We can't get the word out without you. So that's all we got. Thanks so much for being here. Happy New Year to each and every one of you. We'll talk to you next year.
Monuments crumble in the blink of an eye. The easy river has just run dry. In a house of cards, I feel the breeze wound so tight.